Well, of course, the victory of the Indian women's cricket team is the big story that we will be celebrating right through this edition of India Business Hour. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm Shriram Fin. The other headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the Nifty end with marginal gains, but the midcap index hits a 52-week high. The rupee hits a record low against the US dollar. Dealers say the rupee is not slipping further only because of the RBI's intervention. The Supreme Court clarifies on last week's Vodafone Idea order, says the government is free to consider relief on the overall AGR dues. The Apex Court last week had permitted the government to consider relief on additional AGR dues. The cash-strapped Vodafone Idea currently owes total AGR dues worth 83,500 crores. The stock sees its biggest single-day gain in the last 18 months. Car sales hit a record high in October after the GST cut. Sales of Maruti, M&M and Tata Motors surge, even as Hyundai underperforms. Two-wheeler sales and tractor sales meet estimates. Days after his ouster from the board of TataTrusts, Mehli Mistry says the stage is set for a legal battle, files a caveat with the Maharashtra Charity Commissioner seeking a hearing before any change in trustees at the TataTrusts. Japan's Mitsubishi Financial Group is set to be in advanced talks to buy 20% stake in Shriram Finance. Money Control reports the deal could be worth around $4 billion. Shriram Finance management tells CNBC TV18 multiple discussions are underway. No proposal is before the board yet. Airtel beats estimates in the second quarter. Average revenue per user grows by over 2% to 256 rupees a month. Subscriber addition in line with estimates. Online trading platform Groww's anchor book of 3,000 crore rupees receives bid worth 50,000 crore. Sources say marquee mutual funds and global investors like Norway's pension fund, Abu Dhabi Investment, Sequoia and others have bid. The Enforcement Directorate provisionally attaches over 40 properties linked to entities of the Anil Ambani-run Reliance Group in connection with the loan fraud case. The properties worth 3,000 crore rupees include Anil Ambani's family residence at Pali Hill. US President Trump's approval ratings decline ahead of key elections in New York, New Jersey and Virginia tomorrow. US government shutdown enters day 34. The US Supreme Court will hear a case against Trump's tariffs on Wednesday. Political parties pull out all stops ahead of the first phase of the Bihar elections. Prime Minister Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and top BJP leaders hold rallies. 121 assembly constituencies across 18 districts will head to the polls this Thursday.
The Indian women's cricket team with their very first ICC Women's Cricket World Cup trophy.
The Indian women's cricket team are the champions of the world after losing two finals. Harmanpreet Kaur's team beat South Africa and emerges third time lucky. Well, we'll get to the cricketing action in just a bit, but the market action to start with. The Wall Street managed to end higher, but the large caps underperformed today, and that continued with the sensex and the Nifty closing the day flat. The mid-cap index higher by about 460-odd points, and the Nifty Bank was up by about 300 points or so, hitting a 52-week high. Nifty Bank is also outperforming the blue chips today. But let's talk about the rupee. Fell back to its all-time low of 88.80 against the dollar. This is higher crude oil prices and outflows of foreign capital weighed on the Indian currency. But a late intervention by the Reserve Bank managed to stem the fall. Lata standing by now with the money market wrap. Lata, what's weighing on the rupee?
Well, it's not a big fall from the Friday levels of about 88.78, but the rupee throughout the day was flirting with the all-time low of 88.79 and even crossed over to 88.80 per dollar. What makes it significant is that in the past week, that is on October 27th, it had touched a high of 87.75, largely because of the Reserve Bank's huge dollar supplies. The reason for the fall today is, the usual. We have seen consistent FII selling equities and buying dollars and taking it back. Likewise, importers' month-end demand for dollars, corporates as well wanting to buy dollars because it's not showing any signs of becoming cheaper. Exporters who had earlier sold the dollars are now buying back. So just about everyone is turning dollar bullish. The Reserve Bank, when it had taken the dollar all the way to 87.75 on October 27th, the market apparently was in the mood that maybe the Reserve Bank knows something about dollar flows or trade deals or something, which is why it was supplying dollars with such force. And therefore, a lot of people had gone out of their short dollar positions, had gone out of their long dollar positions, and had become even short dollar. So now there is a frenzy of buying dollars globally as well. The dollar has become stronger. The DXY has moved up from about 96 and change levels 2 weeks ago. It has come almost to 100 levels, 99.70, because the Fed has turned a little more hawkish. The December rate cut is now a bit doubtful. All this is leading to further pressure on the rupee, and it looks like the Reserve Bank is the only reason why it is not crossing 88.80. The market believes that if the Reserve Bank allows it to cross 88.80, perhaps 89 will come very soon.
Well, we'll be watching closely. Lata, many thanks for joining us. Oil prices, meanwhile, gaining after fears of oversupply eased following OPEC Plus decision to hold off on production hikes in the first quarter of next year. Oil producers group has agreed to raise output by over 1.3 lakh barrels per day in December. This is the same as the hike for October and November. Ukraine's ongoing strikes on Russian energy infrastructure also pushed prices higher. But let's talk about the big corporate story. Shares of Vodafone Idea surging over 9% in trade. This after the Supreme Court clarified that the government is free to consider relief on both additional and reassessment of all AGR dues. The cash-strapped Vodafone Idea currently owes a total dues worth 83,500 crores in AGR. Ashmit standing by now with the details of what transpired in court. Ashmit, big relief for Vodafone Idea, but interesting that the Supreme Court clarifies on an order it passed just last week saying that the government is free now to provide relief if it chooses to, not just on the additional AGR, but on AGR altogether.
Indeed, with that clarification, the shareholders of Vodafone Idea heaving a huge sigh of relief. And among those shareholders, let's not forget the government itself is the single largest shareholder with a 49% stake. So huge relief to all stakeholders, at least the government as well as Vodafone Idea itself is concerned. Now, bear in mind, the last week's order had caused some confusion. It had given the impression that the DoT can grant relief only to the extent of additional AGRs of 9,500 crore rupees. Now, that had sparked concern, that had caused confusion. We had reached out to senior-most officials within the DoT. They said that even we as in the government, will need clarity, will need a legal opinion, and therefore a need was felt. Vodafone Idea knocking on the doors of the Apex Court once again, and this time Mukul Rahatgi appearing for Vodafone Idea, essentially calling it a need for correction that is required from the Apex Court, saying that at no point did Vodafone ever argue that the only relief they are seeking is against additional AGR. They said that Vodafone Idea seeking relief against not just additional AGR, but also the overall mammoth figure that Vodafone Idea is staring at, that figure north of 83,000 crore rupees as of March of this year. On that count, the Apex Court acknowledging that, yes, there was indeed some miscommunication, there was a need for clarity, and with that clarifying that, yes, Vodafone Idea had sought both these reliefs. It will allow for both these reliefs. It will allow for Centre the flexibility to go ahead and consider any fresh application. So clearly, a big heave, a big sigh of relief for both Vodafone Idea as well as for the government. The government was also supporting this proposition. The next port of call, the next step, of course, will be an application that now Vodafone Idea will have to file before the DoT for seeking relief.
Well, the ball now moves to the government. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Staying with the court, the Supreme Court has stayed a Karnataka High Court order that required multiplexes to keep a detailed auditable record for every ticket sold. This order came after a single judge bench of the High Court stayed the 200 rupee cap in September when the state had appealed. A division bench upheld the stay but directed multiplexes to maintain auditable records for every movie ticket sold. The Supreme Court has now paused those directions, meaning that multiplexes will not need to maintain such detailed records for now, though the High Court will continue hearing the main challenge to the 200 rupee price cap. And more from the courts. The Delhi court has acquitted the former Coal Secretary H.C. Gupta and former civil servant K.S. Kropa along with 3 others in a coal scam case. The court ruled that no essential elements for criminal conspiracy, cheating or forgery were established against Gupta and Kropa. The court's verdict came while hearing the case linked to the alleged irregularities in the allocation of the Fatehpur East coal block in Chhattisgarh to RKM Power Gen. India's manufacturing growth picked up pace in October. The HSBC India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index rose to 59.2 in October from 57.7 in September. And this was driven by strong domestic demand, export growth and GST relief during the month. However, international sales rose at the slowest pace in 10 months, and this signaled some moderation in external demand. And India's goods and services tax collection for October grew 4.6% year-on-year to 1.96 lakh crores. This has kept the GST mop up close to 2 lakh crore rupees. That's the milestone for the third straight month. However, the net GST revenue grew marginally by less than 1% on the back of higher export incentives and credit settlements across manufacturing-heavy sectors. And staying with GST-related news, automakers' sales accelerating in line with expectations for the month of October as both festive demand and the GST rate cuts bore good tidings for the sector. Sales in the passenger vehicle industry reaching a record high in terms of volumes, and the big outperformance was seen in commercial vehicles and the tractor segment. Sudarshan standing by with the Motown report card. Sud.
First full month where we have seen the impact of recent GST rate cut and the festive season, and these companies have reported sales, and those sales were largely in line or slightly better than expectations. Biggest positive surprise was the performance of commercial vehicle, and both the companies Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland have reported sales much better than expectations. Tata Motors, both the segments have seen a big outperformance. Passenger vehicle segment has seen a growth of almost 27%, while after several months commercial vehicle segment has reported growth of almost 10%. For Ashok Leyland, one segment that was underperforming is the bus segment, and this month that segment has seen a growth of almost 34%, and for Ashok Leyland it was an all-round beat. Mahindra and Mahindra, both the segment have reported sales. Those were largely in line. For auto segment, it was led by SUV, which has seen a growth of almost 27%, and tractor too has seen a growth of almost 13%. For Maruti, domestic sales were led by compact and SUV segment, whereas entry-level segment, where two cars are there, Alto and Espresso, both sales of both these cars have come down year-on-year. One company that has underperformed the peers was Hyundai, and that's mainly because of domestic market, where it has seen a decline in the sales YOY. In two-wheeler space, all the three companies, TVS Motor, Bajaj Auto and Eicher Motors, which have reported sales so far, have reported numbers, and those numbers were largely in line. For Eicher Motors, the positive part was in the festive season, it has seen growth of almost 26%, much higher than the monthly average. So sales were better than expectations for the month of October, but the expectation would be what exactly these companies say about FY26 outlook, because the expectation is that these companies are likely to increase the FY26 outlook from the current outlook. Current outlook is for PV, low single-digit growth, and for two-wheelers, it's a high single-digit growth.
Sid, many thanks for joining us. IPO Corner, Lenskart 7,300 crore rupee IPO offering witnessed robust demand for day two of bidding. Overall subscription now over 2 times the shares on offer. This was led by the retail portion, which was subscribed over 3 times, followed by the portion reserved for the non-institutional investors, which was booked over 1.8 times. Brokerage firm Groww has received bids worth over 50,000 crores from large domestic mutual funds and foreign funds for its anchor book before the IPO opens tomorrow. Sources say the anchor book is estimated to be around 3,000 crores, has been oversubscribed more than 15 times. It's seen participation from 8 out of the 10 large mutual funds, including SBI Mutual Fund and major US investors like Sequoia. Well, the 3,900 crore rupee IPO of Pine Labs will open for subscription from November 7 to November 11. The fintech company has set the price band in the range of 2010 and 221 rupees per share. The IPO comprises a fresh issuance of 2,080 crores, down from the 2,600 crore rupees in June. Existing investors like Peak 15 Partners, PayPal and MasterCard will look to sell a total of 8.23 crore shares. Pine Labs is seeking a valuation of over 25,300 crore rupees. Speaking to CNBC TV18, CEO Amrish Rao explained why the issue has been downsized.
I have more than 1,000 crores of cash on our balance sheet today. That's point number one. Point number two is when we have reduced the OFS and the sale amount, fresh issuance, when we have reduced it, zero has been taken away from any growth-related activities. So growth-related activities, when it comes to international expansion, technology investment, we made no changes. Just as our financial position has improved what we have actually done is we have reduced some of the debt repayment activities that we had identified. So when it comes to P&L and growth in our business, we made no changes out there.
Well, that is Pine Labs. Hotel chain Oyo's parent company Prism has rolled back its complex bonus share proposal after a backlash. The company says it will release a fresh bonus share proposal soon for shareholder approval. The revised structure will not include an application process. This comes after the company's initial proposal, in which investors were to receive one bonus share for every 6,000 equity shares held, drew criticism instead of an equal bonus distribution. The proposal hinged on how shareholders responded within a tight window and also on the progress of Oyo's long-awaited listing, so that share proposal being rolled back. Earnings. Bharti Airtel second quarter performance surpassed expectations. Net profit doubled year-on-year, surging 14% compared to last quarter. Revenue growth also ahead of estimates, rising 5% quarter-on-quarter. The average revenue per user rose 2.4%, hitting 256 rupees, while subscriber addition also in line with expectations. Margins expanded 40 basis points, hitting 56.7%, in line with expectations. Adani Group-led Ambuja Cement posted a record profit in Q2, net profit up multifold to 1,766 crore rupees on an annual basis. According to an exchange filing, the surge in profit came on the back of a one-time income tax provision reversal. Revenue also increased 22% in the quarter. And staying with earnings, eyewear and watchmaker Titan reporting a strong set of numbers in the second quarter. Net profit rose over 42%, revenue jumped over 25% on an annual basis, margins expanded by 120 basis points. That's Titan for you. Now, the Enforcement Directorate has attached properties worth over 7,500 crore rupees linked to a money laundering probe against Anil Ambani's Reliance Group. Now, these properties include Anil Ambani's family residence, Pali Hill in Mumbai, and 132 acres of land in Dhirubhai Ambani Knowledge City, which is situated in Navi Mumbai. Timsy joins us now with the details. Timsy.
According to a statement from the Enforcement Directorate, the attachments include Anil Ambani family's residence at Pali Hill, the Reliance Centre property in New Delhi, and multiple assets spread across Delhi, Noida, Ghaziabad, Mumbai, Pune, Thane, Hyderabad, Chennai, and East Godavari. The orders of attachment were issued on October 31st under Section 5(1) of the PMLA, which allows the Enforcement Directorate to temporarily attach properties suspected to be linked to proceeds of an alleged crime. The ED claims that the case involves diversion and laundering of public funds raised by Reliance Home Finance Limited or RHFL and Reliance Commercial Finance Limited or RCFL. The ED claims to be probing the deals between Yes Bank and RHFL and RCFL between 2017 and 2019. Yes Bank invested 2,965 crore rupees in RHFL instruments and 2,045 crore rupees in RCFL instruments, which later turned into non-performing investments. According to the ED, the investments by the erstwhile Reliance Nippon Mutual Fund into Anil Ambani Group financial companies were routed indirectly through Yes Bank, allegedly in violation of SEBI's mutual fund conflict of interest guidelines. The ED claims that the funds were ultimately traced to the Anil Ambani Reliance Group linked entities. The ED has also further alleged that RHFL and RCFL extended loans to connected companies with serious control lapses and procedural violations. We learn that ED in the statement has also intensified its probe into the Reliance Communication Limited, that is RCOM loan case, alleging diversion of over 13,600 crores rupees through evergreening of loans, connected party transactions, and misuse of bill discounting facilities. The probes are underway.
Timsy, many thanks. And Japanese major Mitsubishi Financial Group is in advanced talks to pick up a 20% stake in Shriram Finance. As per a money control report, a deal is likely to be announced soon. The report also says that MUFG will invest perhaps $3 to $4 billion in Shriram Finance through fresh capital infusion and secure 2 board seats. Umesh Revankar, Executive Vice Chairman of Shriram Finance, speaking to CNBC TV18 this morning, said that while they are in talks with many banks and institutions, there is no proposal before the board just yet. Take a look.
We are in discussion with many of the banks and institutions all the time. And this time we have not even discussed this in the board. So there is no question of raising equity at any point of time. First of all, we need to discuss this in the board meeting. And since it has not come to the board, I cannot further comment on that.
Well, the big story tonight, India's women's cricket team crowned the World Cup champions for the first time. A 52-run victory over South Africa in the finals gave the team this historic win in a tournament that has seen women in blue on the brink of an early exit. From 3 straight defeats in the group stage to a flawless run in the knockout stages, India's comeback was as dramatic as it was record-breaking. Navi Mumbai's D.Y. Patil Stadium, where the Women's Premier League began, roared as skipper Harmanpreet Kaur's catch secured the victory in the 45th over. Kick-starting the celebrations, veteran cricketers Anjum Chopra, Mithali Raj, Jhulan Goswami and many others joined in on the celebrations on the field after the team lifted the trophy.
Always we've come in close situations, crunch moments, and we've given it away. But this Indian team changed that. So I think I love that for that reason, that we defeated them and today we are world champions.
I really don't have words, sir. क्योंकि हम ये moment visualize कर चुके हैं. हम लोग बात करते थे, अभी हो गया है, तो अभी इसको ऐसे soak in करने में बहुत time लग रहा है. पर what to say, I don't have words.
As a team हम लोग अगर कोई ट्रॉफी जीतनी है तो सबको एक साथ आके स्टाफ प्लेयर सबको एक साथ आके वो मैजिक क्रिएट करना होता है और वो वही किया हमने तो काफी अच्छा लगा.
And I speak with cricketing legend Mithali Raj, who captained India in 2 World Cup finals in 2005 and 2017. You can catch that conversation at 9:30 p.m. here on CNBC TV18. Up next on India Business Hour, President Trump's approval ratings decline ahead of key elections in New York, New Jersey and Virginia tomorrow. More details when we return. And catch all of CNBC TV18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Subscribe to CNBCTV18.com and CNBC TV18 Access for exclusive stories and our special shows. Well, you're watching India Business Hour. At least 19 people are dead and several have been injured after a passenger bus collided with a gravel-laden truck on the Hyderabad-Bijapur highway. The bus belonged to Telangana State Road Transport Corporation and had 70 passengers on board. This comes just a week after 20 people died in another bus accident in Andhra Pradesh. More than 10 people have died and several others injured in Jaipur after a truck rammed into several vehicles. Police officials have shifted the injured to hospitals nearby. The cause of the incident is still being investigated. This is the second such road accident in Rajasthan in the last 2 days. Days ahead of the first phase of elections in Bihar, political parties have pulled out all stops to woo voters. 121 assembly constituencies across 18 districts will head to the polls in phase 1 this Thursday. Prime Minister Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, top BJP leaders held rallies in the state. Addressing a public rally in Saharsa, the Prime Minister urged first-time voters to vote for the NDA alliance. Meanwhile, Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra also held a rally in Saharsa, alleging that Bihar's youth is being forced to leave the state as unemployment remains rampant.
अभी नौजवान बेटे बेटी जो पहली बार वोट डाल रहे हैं उनको मेरा विशेष आग्रह है कि इस बार आपका वोट एनडीए की सरकार बनाने वाला वोट होना चाहिए.
सब लोग चाहते थे कि हमें सरकारी रोजगार चाहिए. क्यों? यहां बुजुर्ग बैठे हैं, बताएंगे. क्योंकि उससे सुरक्षा मिलती थी, पेंशन मिलता था, ऐसे लगता था कि अब नौकरी लग गई है, जीवन भर हम ठीक होंगे, हमें अब चिंता की जरूरत नहीं होगी. आज की परिस्थिति क्या है बहनों और भाइयों? आज जितने भी वो बड़े बड़े उद्योग थे सब मोदी जी ने अपने बड़े बड़े दोस्तों को, उद्योगपतियों को दे दिए हैं.
And in global news, President Trump has seen his approval ratings take a hit in the last few weeks. Multiple polls show frustration among voters over his handling of the economy. This comes just a year ahead of the midterms and 3 crucial elections tomorrow. The U.S. government shutdown has entered day 34, drawing level with the longest shutdowns in U.S. history. This shutdown is all set to become the longest in U.S. history tomorrow. A new Washington Post ABC poll shows President Trump's approval rating slipping to 41%, with nearly 6 in 10 Americans disapproving of his performance. Support among Republicans remains strong at 86%, but he's losing ground with independents. Nearly 70% disapprove of his presidency. An NBC News poll has Trump's approval rating slightly higher at 43%, but an Economist YouGov poll has put his approval rating at 39%, which is his lowest among major polls. The numbers are driven by dissatisfaction with his handling of the economy, immigration and tariffs, especially as the federal government shutdown drags on, freezing funds for programs in several Democratic-run states. Amidst this backdrop, we have key election battles in New Jersey, Virginia and New York, and the Democrats are tipped to win all 3. In the much-awaited battle for New York, Democrat socialist Zohran Mamdani remains the frontrunner, but his once commanding lead has narrowed slightly. Mamdani leads the poll with over 40% support. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, fighting as an independent, is polling at 34%, and Republican Curtis Sliwa is polling at 24%. Meanwhile, the U.S. Supreme Court is all set to hear a case against Trump's tariffs on Wednesday. This will have huge ramifications for the U.S. and the world economy. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV18. We've got lots coming up for you. We're back in a moment with more.